Hi everyone, Coach Alexa here. Today I want to talk about sleep. So, sleep is probably one of the biggest things that you can do to improve your running, but also improve your overall health and fitness and well-being. So there's some great evidence from the world of kind of top end elite level sport, football, Olympic level athletes. Not only is sleep amazing for recovery, it helps us recover quicker and be ready for our next training session that little bit quicker, but it also really helps actual kind of on the day sports performance. So there's a whole load of work that goes into making sure people are well slept going into big key races, key matches. So it has such a performance enhancing effect that it's something that they work really hard on at the elite level. Generally, if something's working well for them, why not? Why not do it for us mere mortals as well? To give you a real eye-opening example that I found quite shocking actually about the impact that sleep has on our overall health and well-being. So the clocks change twice a year. We either gain an hour of sleep or lose an hour of sleep once each year. And that happens across the world. So it's like a massive big data gathering exercise and experiment on an hour's gain of sleep or an hour's loss of sleep. When we gain an hour, so the clocks go back, there is a 20% reduction in the number of heart attacks across the world. When we lose an hour, so the clocks go forward, there is around a 24% increase in the number of heart attacks. So that is how important sleep is. That is how much it makes a difference to our physical well-being. Also makes a massive difference to our mental well-being. So when we sleep, lots of processes are taking place to process memories, to remove an aspect of emotion from different memories, which I found quite interesting, to store different bits of information, to create different memories, to process things that have happened throughout that day. So if we cut down on sleep, then we're reducing that kind of mental processing and cleanup activity at the end of each day. So hugely, hugely important, this sleep business. Few little ideas about how you can improve your sleep to improve your health, physical health, mental health, and running. Think about a bedtime routine. We are real creatures of habit, so we can use that habit creation to have a few different things that perhaps you do every day before you go to bed that gets your brain into, okay, we're going for a sleep now, and might be able to drift off to sleep that little bit more easily. So for me, for example, it's, going upstairs, perhaps having a shower, certainly spending a bit of time in the bathroom, cleaning my teeth, washing my face, putting some nice moisturiser on, that kind of thing. And then it might be reading a book, or it might be, sort of saying goodnight to the kids, or whatever it might be. So 3 or 4 different things that you do every night in the run up to you going to sleep or going to bed that will help train your brain that this is what we're going to do. We're sleeping now. Excellent. Another one to also think about is how we kind of prepare our environment for sleep. So a cooler bedroom is great. A little bit cooler temperature than perhaps our living space might be, shown to have improved sleep quality. Making sure the light levels are really low. If you've got, like me, sort of light coming from neighbours and street lights, popping a blackout blind up behind your curtains perhaps, because that light will trigger the hormonal waking response in our body and means we won't sleep as deeply. Think a little bit as well about that lighting and that environment in the couple of hours before you go to bed. So dim the lights perhaps in your living room if that's where you're spending time before you go to bed. So instead of bright lights being on, the light levels are a little bit lower. Think about warm lighting, so yellowish toned light. Blue light, which is similar to the light that we get from the sun, again triggers our brain to think that it's daytime. So we want to kind of draw it down into that this is an evening lighting, closing the curtains, getting into that sun has set, it's time to sleep mode. Blue light also comes from our screens as well. So our phone screens, tablets, computers, television, all emit this blue light, which again will trigger that awakening in our brain. So think about having, shutting the screens off a short period or an hour or so before you go to bed, and you might find that helps as well. A couple of other, I think, things that perhaps people may or may not be aware how much they might be impacting their sleep. The first is alcohol. So a lot of people think that alcohol is a sleep aid. It isn't. It's a sedative. So being sedated is different to being asleep. So if you've had a few drinks, you might find that actually you kind of pass out quite quickly. You're not really sleeping, and then once that sedative effect wears off, you actually sleep very lightly in a very disrupted way, toss and turn quite a bit, so you really miss out on quality sleep when you've had a bit to drink. Caffeine is the other one, and I don't think many people, I certainly didn't until I started researching into it, the amount caffeine impacts us. So a lot of drugs are described in terms of their half-life. So this is the time it takes for half of a dose of that drug to have been metabolized, so it's no longer in your system. The half-life for caffeine is quite long. The half-life is 6 hours and the quarter life is 12 hours. So what that means is if you have a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, half of it is going to still be in your body at 11 o'clock in the evening. If you have a couple of cups of coffee somewhere between midday and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a quarter of that, so half a cup of coffee's worth, is still going to be in your bloodstream at 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. So bearing that in mind, perhaps only caffeine in the mornings, or perhaps just cutting down your caffeine intake, it will make a big, big difference to your sleep quality. And as we've just talked about, our sporting fitness performance, our physical and our mental health. A couple of books that I found really interesting. So this book, Sleep by Nick Littlehales, is really, really good. It's more from a kind of athlete's perspective. So it talks a lot about how sleep is used as a performance aid. So that's a really interesting perspective. And then probably one of the most popular books on sleep, Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. Lots of tips in this book about how to improve your sleep quality. So, and why we need to do that, what's actually happening when we sleep, so we understand kind of the value of sleep and don't see it as wasted time. I think our society perhaps undervalues sleep, does see it as time that's not being spent doing something more useful, but sleep is so useful and so important. And now I know that, I naturally prioritise it a lot more than I used to. Hope that's helpful.